Hello, my name is Dr. Aaron Moreland. I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I'm the owner and one of the practitioners at Valeo Health and Wellness Center. And today we're going to be talking about vaccines. We're doing a series on vaccines just because the information that we have, there's so much of it that we've split it into a series. And so today we're going to be talking about an overview of what it is that the video series will entail, and then talking to you a little bit about why it is that I'm even doing this talk. And so that's what I want to spend a little time doing today. And so you may be wondering why a chiropractor would be talking to you about vaccines. I don't administer vaccines, and I'm not a doctor of medicine. I'm also not an immunologist. And so why is it that a chiropractor would be speaking on vaccines? You may have also heard many chiropractors or other healthcare providers, alternative healthcare providers, speaking against vaccines and encouraging people not to get their vaccines. And so you may be wondering why that is. And so today I want to share some information on my background, on what it is that got me so passionate about this topic, and then throughout the series share information with you so that you can make good decisions when it comes to vaccinating or not vaccinating. And so just a background on what it is that how I came to learn about this topic is that we have twin daughters. They're 13 years old now, and we also have a son that's 9 years old. And so when they were first born, our twins were first born, we started vaccinating them. I wasn't a chiropractor at the time. My wife was a nurse, and it wasn't something that we had ever even thought of not doing. In fact, like most people, just did what the doctors had told us to do. So we'd go in and get them routinely vaccinated. And I remember one time going to the doctor, and he was encouraging them to get a new shot called the rotavirus shot. He said it was a series of 3 shots, and so that we would administer the first one, and then a few months later do the second one, and then a few months later do the third one. And so we went forward with the first vaccine, and I remember we went back for the second one, and the doctor said that the vaccine is no longer on the market, that it had been pulled off the market, and that we weren't going to be doing the rotavirus vaccine anymore. And so that really sparked my curiosity, but not enough to do anything about it other than to think that that seemed pretty strange. And so during that same time, I was in my prerequisites for chiropractic school. And I remember going to the chiropractic school and walking by a sign that was a poster that was up on the wall, and the poster said, "Do you know what's in a vaccine?" And what they had listed for ingredients, as far as the ingredients in the vaccine, were all kinds of different things from the virus. But it also said chicken embryos and even dust from a vacuum cleaner bag. And so again, it sparked my interest. I wasn't sure if I could completely believe that poster, because I'm pretty sure they weren't putting dust from a vacuum bag into the vaccine, but it also sparked my interest to think that there was other things in the vaccine other than just the virus. And so fast forward a bit, got into chiropractic school and started hearing people speak about vaccines, and actually hearing a lot of information that I'd never heard, information that we hadn't heard at the doctor's office. And so decided to start doing more and more research. So over the past 8 to 10 years, maybe even 12 years, I've spent hundreds of hours learning more about vaccines and hearing and learning that information that you're not really hearing in mainstream medical journals, not hearing from your doctor. And so I started doing this research, and over the past, like I said, 8 to 12 years, I've really become passionate about it and wanting to share this information with others so that people can make great decisions. And so that's what we're going to be doing over the course of this video series, is I'm going to be sharing that information with you so that you can make a great decision. And again, my goal here is not today, through this video series, is not to try to convince you whether you should vaccinate or should not vaccinate your children. I believe that's a choice as a parent that you should make, not me make, but it should be based off of great information. What I want to do next is just go over the information that we will be sharing with you. And so these are the objectives that I want to go over as we do this video series. The first thing I want to talk to you about is what it really is a vaccine. And then after that, I want to talk about how a vaccine works. Many of us have some thoughts on how a vaccine works, but not necessarily knowing what exactly that happens when we administer a vaccine. And then I want to talk about what's in a vaccine. There's a lot of different controversy as far as what's in the vaccine, one of them being the controversy being mercury, and so I want to clear that up with people, and then just talk about anything else that is in the vaccine other than the viruses or the bacteria. I also want to talk to you about whether vaccines truly have eradicated diseases. when you talk to people, especially people defending vaccines, they'll say that they've eradicated diseases that were around 100 years ago. They're not even around anymore. So I want to talk about that, see if that's truly what has happened. Then we'll go on to talk about what's the vaccine schedule, what is it that children have to go through if a parent does choose to do the full schedule, and then I'll talk to you about whether vaccines truly can cause harm or not. Is there any ethical issue if you choose to not vaccinate? I'm also going to talk about specific vaccines, because some people do choose to vaccinate for some and then choose to not vaccinate for others, and so I want to talk about each vaccine individually. And then we'll talk about what to do if your child is harmed by a vaccine or was harmed by a vaccine, what you can do about that, and then what steps you should take if you choose to not vaccinate, and then what steps to do if you do choose to vaccinate. So these are the objectives that we're going to be going through. Again, we're going to be breaking them up into a different series, a series of videos. So the first video that we're going to be doing is going to talk about what's in a vaccine, how does a vaccine work, and we'll also talk about what a vaccine is. Again, the purpose of this talk is not to convince you whether you should vaccinate your children or not. Rather, the intent of this presentation is to provide you with information which will allow you to make an informed decision. As parents, we have a lot of decisions to make, whether we should be disciplining our children, what school they should go to. Also, healthcare is a huge one that we have to make decisions. And as parents, we make right decisions a lot and we make bad decisions a lot. And so it's a learning process. And we need to understand that there's going to be times when you make bad decisions and there's going to be times when you make good decisions. What we want to do is help you to, by informing you, help you to make the best decisions possible and then feel the most comfortable with whatever decisions you make. And again, with vaccines, they say that they should be administered under informed consent. And that means that parents should know and understand what it is they're doing when they vaccinate their children. And so the information that we're going to give, again, is to help you to make a good decision, but not make that decision for you. As a parent, you've been given a gift from God, and that gift from God was given to you because God feels that you can make those decisions for your children. And so we want to just help you to make those decisions. When it comes to vaccines, people that choose to not vaccinate, what you hear a lot of times is that potentially there are people that don't want to do what the government's telling them to do, or they maybe it's conspiracy theory. But what you'll see here, according to Dr. Bruce Gallen, the director of the Vaccine Initiative, is that many people do believe that anti-vaccine consumers tend to be those with a child who had a bad reaction to a vaccine, which could have been coincidental, or those who believe the government should not tell them what to do, and those who are increasingly focused on the perceived benefits of alternative medicine. And so what you'll a lot of times think with people that choose to not vaccinate is not that they're well educated about the fact or the information, but that they are just making choices based off of either their belief system or just against trying to go against the grain. And so what we need to realize that according to research is that most people that do choose to not vaccinate are very educated people and have actually spent a lot of time learning this information. But I also have seen many people that have chosen not to vaccinate that really don't know why they've chosen not to vaccinate other than they've heard it's a bad idea. And I've also seen people that choose to vaccinate that really don't know why they choose to vaccinate other than their doctors told them to. And so what we need to do is, again, become informed so that we can make good decisions, and that when we talk to people, we can help them to understand why we've made those decisions in the first place. When we look at certain beliefs and we look at things that have happened in the past, we can see that there's a lot of things that we believed maybe hundreds of years ago that we know are not true now. And so this statement really explains that. A truth's initial commotion is directly proportional to how deeply the lie was believed. When a well-packaged web of lies has been sold gradually to the masses over generations, the truth will seem utterly preposterous and its speaker a raving lunatic. And so when we look at just a few hundred years ago, people believed that the world was flat. And in fact, if you said that the world was round, you could be put to death because of having that belief. And yet those people were correct. And same with when we look at that second picture, it's a picture of a computer. You can see a computer used to take up an entire room. And so people could not fathom the idea that people would have personal computers. In fact, there was statements made that no one in their right mind would ever want a personal computer in their house. And yet now we carry them around in our pockets. And then finally, the last picture shows what people used to do when it came to healthcare, especially with mental illnesses. They used to believe that it was a spirit that was captured in the body, and they needed to release it by drilling a hole in their head. And that was mainstream medicine at the time. And now we can see that looks ridiculous, yet at the time it looked like breaking science. And so we know that we can be wrong about things, and we can look back and we can look with that hindsight of 2020 and say that yes, that was wrong. But what are we doing today that's wrong, that potentially they'll look back at us and see that we're doing things that just didn't make any sense? And so could vaccines be one of those, or maybe just the way we're doing them? So that's what I want to talk to you throughout this video series. Our next video then will be going over what is a vaccine, what's in a vaccine, and how do vaccines work. And we'll be going over that next week. And I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.